You know, there's something in the air that affects every single one of us every single day, but a lot of the time, it goes completely unnoticed. It's called particle pollution, and it's this huge, invisible threat to our health. So today, we're going to break down exactly what it is, how it harms us, and maybe most importantly, what you can actually do about it.
Have you ever looked out at the horizon, maybe on a warm, still day, and everything just looks hazy? You might just brush it off as, poor visibility. But what you're seeing is often a sign of something much more serious going on in the air all around us.
That haze? Well, that's just the visible tip of the iceberg. It's the calling card of particle pollution. We're talking about a microscopic invader here, a mix of tiny solids and liquid droplets that are so small they can sneak right past your body's built-in defenses, like in your nose and throat, and travel deep inside you. So to really get a grip on this threat, we've got to understand what we're actually up against. I mean, what is particle pollution anyway?
Okay, so particle pollution isn't just one single thing. Think of it more like a cocktail of different tiny components floating around in the air. The most important thing to get, though, is the size. The particles that cause the biggest problems are 10 micrometers or smaller. Now, to put that into perspective for you, a single strand of your hair is about 50 to 70 micrometers thick. So yeah, we are talking about something impossibly small.
So particle pollution really comes in two main flavors. On the one hand, you have the coarse particles, PM10, think dust from roads, construction sites, that kind of stuff. Your body's actually pretty good at catching these larger bits, but on the other side is the real danger, the fine particles, or PM2.5. These mostly come from burning things, like from power plants, factories, and car exhaust. And because they're so tiny, they can slip right past your body's defenses, get deep into your lungs, and even wiggle their way into your bloodstream.
So what actually happens when you breathe these fine particles in? Let's follow their path, from the air all the way into your body. It's a journey that really shows you just how this invisible threat does its damage. So here's how the invasion works. First, obviously, you breathe the particles in. The big ones get trapped, but those sneaky PM2.5 particles, they travel deep down into your lungs. Now, your body tries to fight back. It uses mucus to trap them, special white blood cells to gobble them up. But here's the problem. The absolute smallest particles can just overwhelm these defenses, and that's when the final step happens. Invasion. They can pass right through the lining of your lungs and into your bloodstream, where they can then travel to your heart, your brain, and other vital organs.
And once those particles are in the bloodstream, that's when the real attack begins. The health consequences are serious, they're widespread, and, this is the scary part, they often happen without any warning signs at all.
And this is exactly what makes particle pollution so sneaky, right? Unlike getting a cough from a puff of smoke, you might not feel a thing. You just can't rely on symptoms to tell you the air is bad, because the damage is often being done completely silently.
So why is this silent damage such a huge deal? Well, get this. 1 in 3 Americans already has cardiovascular disease. That is a massive population that's already at risk, and particle pollution acts like a trigger, making existing conditions worse and even helping create new ones.
And the effects on the heart? They are direct, and they are serious. Exposure can trigger life-threatening events like heart attacks and strokes. It can mess with your heartbeat, make heart failure worse, and over the long haul, it actually speeds up the hardening of your arteries.
Of course, it's not just your heart. Your lungs take a massive hit too. If you have asthma, high pollution days can mean more attacks. For other people, it might just be wheezing or coughing. But for kids, it can actually slow down how their lungs develop. And over time, it can lead to chronic diseases like COPD in adults.
This timeline really puts the whole risk into perspective. See, the danger isn't just from long-term exposure over years and years. A short-term spike in pollution, we're talking just hours or days, that can be enough to trigger a heart attack or a bad asthma attack and land someone in the ER. And then that slow, chronic exposure, it just adds up day after day, leading to serious diseases and even lowering life expectancy.
So, while particle pollution is bad for everyone, some groups are way more vulnerable than others. So, who needs to be the most careful?
Well, the biggest group by far, 40%, are people who already have heart or lung problems. That makes sense, but other groups are also really vulnerable. Children and older adults each make up a big chunk. And then you have people with diabetes and folks with lower socioeconomic status, often because their communities are located closer to things like highways and factories.
So why these groups specifically? Well, for kids, it's a few things. Their lungs are still growing, so they're more easily damaged.
Plus, they tend to play outside a lot more, right? So they're just breathing in more pollution for their size. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, older adults are more likely to have those pre-existing conditions we talked about, and their body's natural defenses just aren't as strong as they used to be.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the problem. It sounds pretty grim, I know. But the good news is, you are not powerless here. There are simple, really effective steps you can take every single day to protect yourself and your family.
And this right here is your key to defense, the Air Quality Index, or the AQI. You've probably seen it on the weather forecast. It's basically a tool that takes all this complex air pollution data and boils it down to one simple color-coded number that tells you how clean or polluted your air is right now.
And here's how to read it. It's super simple. Green, you're good to go. Yellow means moderate, and for most people, that's still okay. The color you really need to watch out for is orange. That means the air isn't healthy for those sensitive groups we just talked about. And when it hits red, the air is unhealthy for everyone, period. So what's the game plan on those orange or red days? It's a pretty straightforward 4-step playbook. First, check the AQI. Use an app like AirNow or check their website. Second, just spend less time outside. Maybe that long hike becomes a short one. Third, dial back the intensity, so choose a walk instead of a run, because the harder you breathe, the more particles you inhale. And finally, keep your indoor air clean. Close up the windows and doors, and if you have an AC, run it on the recirculate setting.
Look, at the end of the day, awareness is everything. Particle pollution might be invisible, but its effects are definitely not. Just by understanding the risks and using a simple tool like the AQI, you can actually take control. Knowing what's hiding in the air is the first, most important step. The only question left is, what will your next breath be?